It's Fabulous Friday, and I'm Sunny Danforth in Northeast Oregon over in Umatilla County. Listen, David couldn't be with me tonight, so we're going solo. And I know tonight here in my community, and I've seen on social media a few others, there's Christmas parade starting now that we've all finished with Thanksgiving, and lighted parades and communities coming together for our the Christmas season. Well, today you may have seen that, may have heard that former Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor passed away today at the age of 93. I'll tell you, she was a remarkable woman, and to be the first woman to serve as the Supreme Court Justice, and really a true trailblazer and with eloquence and intellect. You know, she spent nearly a quarter century on the court, and that is no small task, I would say. And I just there's our condolences with her family. And, you know, this is a woman who broke the glass ceiling, as they say, being the very first woman on the Supreme Court. She had been appointed by President Reagan in 1981, and she retired in 2006 after serving more than 24 years. And it's just, you know, I'm sure a life well lived, being the first woman on our U.S. Supreme Court. And anyway, our condolences to the family with that. Well, today the Republicans did, I think, set a precedent with the expelling of George Santos from Congress. This was a historic vote. And while I have mixed feelings about it, sort of. And one is, yes, he needed to be gone, but he had already stated he wasn't going to run for re-election. And so therefore, I don't think he needed to be expelled. Sanctioned, yes. But now there is a precedent set, one, because he wasn't convicted of anything, where other congressmen that had been expelled had been convicted. Two, we now have only a 2-seat majority in the House. Is that wise? No, I don't think it is. You know, he was voting along with Republicans, as far as I saw anyway. And I don't think, while I don't agree with what he's done, because he had not been convicted of anything yet, then I don't think that he should have been. I do think he should have been sanctioned, no committees, all of that. And he might as well just go home because there won't be anything for him to do. But expelling him, now he's definitely gone. And it's highly likely that the seat won't be held by a Republican, where when he made the announcement that he was not going to run for re-election, that gave people the time for the election to come, and them to be, you know, a candidate going, okay, I'm going to run a good campaign to hold the seat in the Republicans. So I think that this was a unforced error. And of course, the Democrats, you know, they're all too happy to help, because that's one less Republican in the majority. And so I don't think this was a good thing at all, unfortunately. So we're going to see. We're going to see what's come up with that, you know. I don't know if you all are aware that there's a United Nations summit going on, a COP. It's a global climate summit, has kicked off, and it's going to be going on until about the middle of December, actually. So for let's say, call it couple weeks. And in this, they are the UN delegates. Now, mind you, many of these are the UN delegates are unelected people. They're not the elected leaders representing our nation. Yes, there's mayors there. I was reading about a mayor. I don't remember who has gone there. Oh, Whoopi, right? But she's a Democrat. So, people go to be seen and rub elbows and move, in my opinion, the Democrat machine along on the trail that they want it to go. So, UN delegates are circulating a petition to shut down U.S. natural gas production as global climate summit kicks off. Yeah. So you have the United Nations once again wanting to tell United States what to do. And that's not in America's best interest whatsoever. And it's really bad because liquefied natural gas, they're wanting to liquefied natural gas is in the United States and here in the Northwest is actually growing because what they want is the US and other Western nations to immediately ban new natural gas infrastructure projects. Well, over here where I live, I'm in South. I live in Northeast Oregon, and I'm right next to Southeast Washington, and I'm seeing a lot of natural gas infrastructure being built, and and I'm imagined to serve more rural areas. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, but I do see the work happening, and I think it's a good thing, frankly, that is happening. So they want to shut this kind of stuff down. But not just this. They also want to stifle meat production. And Representative Mike Flood has been rebuffing the UN talks to stifle meat production. So he's congressman from Nebraska, and he is joining those drawing a line against a highly anticipated UN advisory that is expected to expand calls for reduced meat consumption across Western nations. I'm a red meat survivor. I like red meat. I'm going to continue eating red meat, and but this has huge. This isn't just about your diet going, oh, well, you should be more vegetarian or whatever. This has ramifications because it, along with the whole natural gas, it affects the nation's sovereignty. It affects us economically, the livestock growing. We are helping to feed the world with what we're producing. And so there's a lot of ramifications, the so-called unintended consequences, but yet you can see the consequences of what it would be if trying to shove down our throats to have artificial meat, that Bill Gates thing of artificial meat. Ugh. And this is, of course, in all the name of curbing carbon emissions. That's what the link is, livestock and curbing carbon emissions. Well, it's hokey. Let me tell you, hokey, especially when you have all of these. Let's see, how many cow farts? I remember when I was much, much younger, they studied cow farts. Now I know why, right? But those that are in the beef industry say, Sonny, they don't fart, they regurgitate because they chew their cud. So that's where it comes from. But here you have these unelected bureaucrats wanting to tell us not to eat meat, reduce our consumption, and they're flying around in their private airplanes going to summits. In fact, I had heard, no, it wasn't that long ago. You're right, Lori. And but I heard there was three people. Was it Kamala Harris and maybe Anthony Blinken? I don't remember, but three of our federal government. They could have all like airplane pooled, you know, on Air Force Two. But no, they've got all three take separate airplanes over there to look chic and look cool. So I do commend Congressman Flood out of Nebraska for pushing back on this. And so apparently, the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, is expected to release its roadmap for sustainable food production. Well, I don't know that they have a real good grasp on that because of looking at how farmers they're looking at how they can do things better and modify farms. I follow a few dairy people on social media and looking at their dairy farms, and two are in Iowa, one's in Oregon, and it's interesting. They don't have the same way of doing things. Some are, but some aren't, just because of the climate is different. But to learn about what they're doing, that they've got like a closed loop system in there. They're recycling the waste from the cattle and also from the feed, because there's always leftover feed, and turning that all into food fertilizer. And some of this you're buying to put on your own garden, I'm assuming. But some of these dairy, that because they're growing food on their own farm that are going to feed the cattle that they have. Now, they're not necessarily growing all the food, but quite a bit of it. And so the waste from the animals is fertilizing the ground to grow the food to feed the cows. And it's just a nice big circle going on. And so there's, farmers, anything that you can do to help save money, because it is expensive, but also doing it better and healthier for cattle. I mean, these dairy farms, they've got nutritionists that come in like every week and check the cattle out and make sure they're doing everything good and whatever they do. I don't know. And, I don't know of other industries, and maybe they do because I'm not familiar with them, that those that are growing are poultry. I bet you they've got big poultry growers. They probably have some nutritionists coming in too. I haven't any idea. But anyway, to get back to the UN, they shouldn't be telling the rest of the world what we need to do. To look at how food is, because commodities is a huge market, and it's important that people do have food, but for them to going, no, you guys need to reduce this because of that. It's because of carbon emissions. That's a crock of BS. And anytime that our elected congressmen or senators are pushing back on this, I think it's a good thing. And I had heard one of the dairymen said, you know what? He goes, has anybody heard about COP28? And so he was calling out some awareness to pay attention, because this is the type of thing that the unelected bureaucrats are trying to push onto not just America, but other nations as well, that this is what we have to do. And there's other things other items that come out of these summits too, that are not necessarily in our best interest. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that's ever come out of one of these that is in our best interest. Yes, do we? So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because I didn't know if you are aware of it. And so it's just a FYI that some of these things are what's going on. Along with some climate, we also have an article here. This is right here in our backyard. And I'm going to post this story. And it is It's about, there's a push to take the dams down. We've got to save the salmon and some fish and whatnot. And thankfully, Congressman Cliff Bentz, who is my congressman, I'm in CD2, he had he brought a delegation actually over to Tri-Cities, Washington. They held a congressional hearing in Tri-Cities. I went to that. It was most informative. I learned things that I had no idea of. But and the reason he did it was to bring stakeholders that the so-called US government was not listening to. Stakeholders in our region that are affected, that would be affected, had the dam, if the dams were to be removed. And admittedly, many of the people that were on the panel to give testimony had never testified. And I remember he had asked somebody, I don't know if it was the person from NOAA or a person from the National Energy, whatever their title was. There was a fellow there that he is the one sole person that was overseeing a huge region of hydroelectric dams. So and then there was people that were, say, the chairman or presidents of wheat leagues, and like, say, maybe it was the Oregon Wheat League. I don't remember all the titles. And he had a scientist there that had been studying the fish. It was so, so informative. But in that meeting, what came out was there was our secret agreements that was being handled by a court. And so apparently the US government chose for months to hold secret negotiations and refused to share any details with the Congress and lead industry groups. And so this secret agreement is between Biden administration and ecological groups seeking to tear down key power sources. So when I ran across this story, it reminded me, and I've posted it there. It reminded me of the hearing that I went to that Cliff Bentz had actually organized here. And so now apparently a group of House lawmakers representing the Pacific Northwest made public a court-approved confidential mediation between the Biden administration and environmental groups pushing to remove 4 hydroelectric dams in Washington to protect salmon. And they're saying, well, the science is settled. This is what we need to do. And they're pushing back and saying, what science? And that was something at the hearing, which was a first. It's not like this happens all the time. It was a first that Cliff Bentz had asked to hold a congressional hearing in Tri-Cities, that a scientist had said, actually, when you look at rivers that have dams and don't have dams, the salmon return are the same. So the science is not settled. And it depends on what science are you using. Are you using modeling, or are you using real science? In fact, what came out of that meeting was the fact of the problem seems to be that the fish are getting destroyed in the ocean. And so one of the panels that was there had said, well, I think maybe we need to study what's going on at the ocean with the fish smolt, that are going there and coming back and whatnot. And so this is a big deal. It's a real big deal because, as Cliff Bentz so eloquently pointed out in this hearing, Congress has the authority of breaching dams. And because it is a federal power, it's a federal power source. And So only they do. So here you have the federal government, the Biden administration, in some secret talks with those that, they said, the environmentalists said, well, we'll pause litigation if you'll just do this. So I kind of sort of sounded a little like blackmail. And so Kathy McMorris Rogers had stated, she said, it's imperative that our constituents whose livelihoods depend on the Columbia River system have a comprehensive understanding of this document's contents so they can anticipate and prepare for the wide-ranging impacts that will inevitably be felt across the region should the commitments detailed in this document be realized. That doesn't give me a lot of hope that we're not going to breach the dams. It scares me actually a lot that they more than likely are going to get there. But additionally, as members of Congress, I quote, representing the Pacific Northwest and tasked with oversight of the executive branch, it is our duty to ensure any actions committed to as part of this agreement do not circumvent by any means the congressional authorization that would be required to execute certain proposed provisions, such as the removal of certain dams, end quote. And so that kind of goes back to the whole UN, right? And what is going on there? Because this is about it's not about salmon, quite frankly. It's about more green, so-called green energy. It truly isn't about saving a fish. And so also they mentioned that they have to look at what would be the energy source to replace this. In order to replace the energy that's produced by the dams. But it's not just about the energy. There are so many negative impacts. In recent years, multiple government and private reports have determined that breaching the dams would have a dramatic negative impact on energy production, climate goals, and transportation in Washington. And because here's just a couple of numbers. Removing the dams would chip away at climate goals, but because they have to be replaced with fossil fuel alternatives. And according to federal data, replacing hydropower generated by dams with natural gas would increase carbon emissions by up to 2.6 metric tons a year, the equivalent of almost 500,000 passenger cars. I don't know what that equates to private jets. Don't know. Also, it's more than that. There is so much transportation, commerce that is moved on the river let's see. There was, I don't know if it was this story or another one I was looking at. Let me look real quick. That had some statistics on what the agriculture. Oh, here it is. So the Columbia River system carries about 60% of Washington's annual wheat exports and a staggering 40% of the nation's total wheat production. So that's by barges. And that is huge. It really is huge. And they only talk about Washington. I find that interesting. And I think it's because Washington considers the dams to be renewable energy. Oregon does not consider those very same dams to be renewable energy, even though we have these dams on the Oregon side. And if they were considered part of our renewable portfolio of energy, we wouldn't need so much of the not green wind turbines, industrial wind turbines in our agricultural ground. And no, we wouldn't need the solar panels either. And which would actually it wouldn't help China along. And I'm all for that. Anything to do that we're not helping China along, I would be I'm for that. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, and is because it's a big deal. There are things that, while we see a lot of noise going on, what else is going on that actually will impact us? And what impacts us is elections. And this is kind of where I wanted to go with this, because look at what, okay, yes, I don't care for Santos. He got elected. He's, you know, I don't agree with him at all. He but he chose not to run. He goes, I'm done. He made that announcement. So therefore, he wouldn't be just let the election happen. But now we have one less vote in the House. One less vote. And I don't think it's going to bode well for us in the future. So as well as with having the election consequences, well, I'll tell you, here you have Val Hoyle. This is House Bill 5283. And this is a press release from Monique Despain, who is calling Val Hoyle's vote to house illegal immigrants in national parks shocking and out of touch with voters' priorities. So apparently, House Bill 5283, a couple of things it was going to do. It was going to stop the Biden administration from turning our national parks, America's best idea, into tent cities for illegal immigrants. And also, the bill was called the Protecting Our Communities from Failure to Secure the Border Act of 2023. And this came out of the House Committee on Natural Resources, Republicans. And it also would hold the Biden administration accountable, revokes the legally dubious lease signed by the Biden administration and New York City, which bypassed standard environmental reviews to house thousands of migrants in an active community park on National Park Service land, in Brooklyn. And so Val Hoyle, so here is the press release from Monique Despain. So today, 4th Congressional District candidate Monique Despain responded to Congresswoman Val Hoyle's support for housing illegal immigrants in Oregon's national parks and public lands with her vote yesterday against H.R. 5283. Val Hoyle vote against protecting our communities from failure to secure the Border Act of 2023 is completely out of touch with what voters are expecting from our elected officials. Her support for turning our national parks into massive migrant camps is outright shocking. Val Hoyle chose the most fringe and extreme element of her party over delivering results for the people of the 4th District. As crime skyrockets and fentanyl floods the streets of our communities, Val Hoyle should be fighting every day to solve the problem of our open southern border. Instead, she continues to pander to party bosses and play politics with the lives of Oregonians. And I'll just finish reading this. It's not much longer, actually. Val Hoyle's vote is a crystal clear example of why I'm asking the people of the 4th Congressional District to deploy me to Washington, D.C. We cannot continue to send the same corrupt career politicians to Washington and expect different results. I'm an outsider who will work with anyone from any party in Congress to fight for common sense policies to solve these crucial issues facing our state. And, this is why elections do have consequences. And Val Hoyle needs gone, and Monique Despain needs to be elected to replace her. We have to keep the House. And so elections have consequences. In fact, I've got one here from the Oregon Catalyst. Worst Oregon political figures of 2023 nominees. Secretary of State Shemia Fagan, the pot scandal princess. Okay. And the Multnomah chair, Vega Pedersen, the crack pipe salesman of the year. He used tax dollars to budget for 55,000 crack pipes, 20,000 pipe cleaners, straws, 90,000 tinfoil sheets, 184,000 copper scouring pads. I can't believe this. And brass screens to use as pipe filters. 77 cases of chapstick for drug users for a total cost to taxpayers of nearly $85,000. There you go. Ted Wheeler, Portlandia's Pass the Buck mayor. After defunding police by 100 positions in 2020, Wheeler proceeded to lobby Governor Tina Kotek to assign 100 Oregon State troopers to police Portland. And under Wheeler, Portland is now the second highest tax city in the United States. Eugene Mayor Lucy Venice, the Ban Everything Baroness. Venice voted to ban natural gas installation in new homes. And she also has been holding hearings on banning all new gas stations as a way to force people into new electric vehicles. Which some of those cost an average of $60,000 to purchase. And I'll talk about electric vehicles in a moment. Eugene teacher Kirk Miller, sex ed class scandal. Students in teacher Kirk Miller's Health to Human Sexuality class at Eugene's Churchill High School were given a fantasy story assignment and asked to write about their non-intercourse sexual fantasies. And I'll tell you, it's just amazing. So there you have the top ones here for the Oregon Taxpayer Association of Oregon, their 23rd annual Taxpayer Award nominees for the worst political government figure in 2023. And I'll tell you, elections have consequences. So I wanted to also, we have some good news too, Yeah, there's a lot of things in that, a lot of things in those stories there. But we have also Portland. The Mayor Wheeler is begging people to please bring back your employees. So downtown Portland should bring back Portland. The employer should bring back the remote workers to the office. The Mayor Wheeler says in a letter that he requested that remote employees be brought back into the office for at least 20 hours a week. It's because the economy in downtown is falling. It's failing. When you don't have people buying lunch, you're losing other businesses and the whole thing will collapse, quite frankly. And so here he is. You've got one of the crappiest towns in Oregon, and he's going, but you got to bring everybody back. Come on, you need to please bring your employees back. And actually, he does say we have a role to play here too. Wheeler acknowledged the streets need to be safe, they need to be clean, and people don't want to navigate through homeless camps. Well, duh. Right? Because what's happening is the ice skating rink and winter marketplace, the pop-up shops, that's all about to happen for the holiday season. And he's going, oh no, but there's nobody down here. So elections have consequences, and we have to be mindful of who's getting elected and what their goal is for us, not just your friend. It's not the personality of the person. The person might be a great person, but actually they could be over their head for a position they're running for. they're not qualified for a position and whatnot. There's many, many things to look at a person that is running. They're also their electability, number one. Number one. So going along with elections have consequences this episode, the school board, we just had the Portland public school teachers just ended their strike that stranded 40,000 students for nearly 3 weeks. And now the school board floats stealing the people's kicker. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So the Portland Public School Board gave the strikers most of what they demanded. Now, one school board member, Andrew Scott, is trying to figure out how to pay for it, going, I think we could probably use the kicker money. He says, we're about to send $5 billion back to Oregon taxpayers because of the kicker law. That funding would have been transformational for every school district in Oregon. The average kicker payout will be $2,100 for Oregonians this year. And although it will vary greatly because the amount each Oregonian gets back is based on the amount they paid in taxes. And I'll tell you, that is not the answer. We have the highest per capita cost to educate the students, and they're failing. They've lowered the bar so much that students are graduating from high school without reading, writing, and arithmetic. And so here you have somebody says, oh yeah, let's just use the kicker, I'm sorry, not the ticker, the kicker tax. No, thank you. I'm not donating my kicker tax to this failed school board at all. But there's things to look at and what's going on around. And that's one of the reasons I like doing captive audience, to try to bring some of these things that people maybe aren't looking at, because there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of, stuff going on here, but yet you're going, oh, wow. Oh, wow. But the good news is, they're not going to be, I don't believe, able to do that, because it would require a change to our Constitution. They must return anything over, I don't know, it says, he says here, we wish to remind our readers, and I've got this from the Taxpayer Association of Oregon, that the People's Kicker income tax refund is over collected tax revenue that the people paid and is being returned to them as voters demanded when they put it into the Constitution. So while I don't feel warm and fuzzy that they won't try to steal as much as they can, when they raise the budget so much, that kind of, I think, might absorb, I could be wrong, some of that kicker. But, and this is why we have such an expanding government in Oregon. Imagine that they over collected $5 billion in 1 year. When you add the gross receipts tax and you add the cat tax that we have, this is why elections have consequences. This is why it's important that every person of voting age in the state of Oregon turns a ballot in. This is why you have to talk to your family, friends, and neighbors about helping them to get their ballot in. And all of us need to do this. Well, I'm talking to the conservative minded, I hope. I think that's pretty much who watches our program and shares our program around. But elections have consequences. And we have to think about that in everything we do, because it affects every bit of our life. And if you don't think it doesn't, you're not paying attention. So did y'all watch the blue and red? Oh, wait a minute. I wanted to cover something else. The wheels are falling off of electric vehicles. And this is in the Epic Times, this article. Let me get that posted really quickly here for you. And it says here from the Epic Times, the wheels are falling off EVs. Technology pushed too far, too fast, has caused consumer skepticism. And so the climate alarmists have tried to foist electric cars and renewable energy on customers. And thankfully, as we talked about on Wednesday, it was almost 4,000 car dealerships and auto dealerships in the United States sent a letter to Biden and said, time out. We got to pause this because it's just not, excuse me, it's just not here. And so first, I'm going to read just this small little bit here. First, consumers are finding that the distances advertised for electric EV charges are overstated. While generally advertised going between 100 and 300 miles. When I fill up my car, I get 500-mile range. I like that. That range varies significantly with the weather. AAA found ranges can drop as much as 12% when temperatures are just 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and 4% when temperatures are 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The range drops as much as 17% when the driver turns on the air conditioner. Well, let's see. Air conditioner, heater. Oh, yeah, you might need some headlights on. And you're listening to the radio. Oh, no. Even driving in a headwind can adversely affect the range. So let's see. Second, consumers are discovering the humongous cost of replacing EV batteries. One unfortunate Canadian, a one-time EV enthusiast, was faced with a $37,000 bill to replace his car's battery shortly after the warranty expired. How would you like that? Well, I'll tell you, I had a conversation here in Umatilla County. Our commissioners voted to purchase. One commissioner wanted, Commissioner Dan Doran wanted to purchase an electric vehicle. And of the three commissioners, two of them voted for it and one did not. And so I've had a couple of conversations, one on the phone and one on social media about, well, because I say it's a waste of money. And someone said, well, was it federal dollars or was it, or what? Or a rebate or something, federal dollars and state. And I go, it doesn't matter, does it? Because federal dollars are our dollars. Our taxes that we pay to our state and our county and our city, that's still our dollars. So some people are of the mindset, well, it's okay. It didn't come out of my pocket, but it did. And I don't, and also federal dollars always, somewhere down the line, federal dollars have strings attached. And I'm not trying to beat up on Commissioner Doran or Commissioner Schaefer, who was the other commissioner that voted for that at all. But it's not something that we need. They're not commissioners in a small little county that is we have long distances to drive. And we have some remote areas here. And so I think it's a waste of money. And frankly, when are we going to say no to spending the money? Well, it's okay. It came from the federal government. Oh, sure, they just print it. It's funny money. It's like monopoly money. But you know what? It is the debt of the American citizens. And China owns a lot of our debt. Other foreign nations own a lot of our debt. And when is that coming? And so I'll tell you, it's everybody should hold all of our elected people that have been elected to represent us, especially when they are not representing us the way that we would like. We need to just speak with them respectfully and let them know, you know what, I don't agree with this. We can agree to disagree, but I don't agree with it. So think about it next time, because we're never going to agree with those that have been elected to represent us 100% of the time. If we can get 80%, great. So don't beat them up, because especially if they're voting 80% of the time, but have a respectful conversation. Have the conversation respectfully, that of what you'd like to see. And it's important. And we've got elections coming up. We've got primaries coming up. School boards, we've got mayors, maybe not school boards, but mayors, city councils, and county commissioners. And we have, like Monique Despain for CD4. Love to see her there. And we have Will Lathrop for Attorney General, is going to be a great person running for a statewide race that I believe that we can actually win this race. And we have to be thinking ahead and looking for people that we would like to see running and representing us. If you're not able to do something like that yourself, talk to who do you might think to recruit somebody running for an office. It doesn't matter what the office is, but run for an office. And if you have somebody who's not representing you in your district the way that you would like them to consistently, do something about it. It's okay to say no. We have to actively be engaged. And yes, I'm the chair of Umatilla County Republicans, and so I talk about this a lot because it's what we have to do to change our city, county, state, and nation. It all has the same effect because we have to send good people to Washington, D.C. And there's another seat. If we could have Monique Despain there, we would have 3 Republicans, as long as we're able to hold on to Lori Chavez DeRemer. I know there's a lot of people that want to primary her, and if you primary her, we might very well lose that seat to a Democrat. So you have to weigh those things. And let's play the long game. We as Republicans have to play the long game and be long-sighted and not short-sighted. We can't be myopic at what we're looking at. And that's not how we're going to save this state or save this nation. So, hey, guys, elections matter. And I want y'all to have a great weekend. Thank you for being here. I'm sort of feel like I was on. Oh, hey, I wanted to talk to you before I'm going to continue on a little bit. Y'all watched, maybe you did or not, the red state, blue state with DeSantis and Newsom. I wasn't able to watch it, but I listened to it a portion of it on the radio. I wasn't able to hear it all. And, I think DeSantis did pretty good. And because but boy, did Newsom lie. Oh my gosh. He was like lying so much. I was like, oh my goodness. I couldn't believe it, but that's what they do. And they feel that if they can just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, people are going to believe it. And so I kind of thought DeSantis did a bit of a good job calling him out for what wasn't true. And the 2 states are so different. The freedoms in Florida, is DeSantis perfect? I have no idea. He's not anybody that I'm going to support for president, because Trump is the person that I 100% am behind. He's who I think will help fix America. I'm looking at the long game, and I don't think it's if DeSantis, if it's ever his time, it's certainly not now. And then, you know, if y'all haven't seen about this, but Elon Musk was on a talk show, or doing a New York Times was having a deal book summit, and Elon Musk was on there because there are those like Disney CEO who's going, we can't, they're trying to break Twitter, X, former Twitter, for advertising. So a lot of advertising are leaving, and Elon basically told him to just go F himself. He's going, if you're going to try to blackmail me with money, and he says, I just go F yourself. And I think I've made myself clear. And I'm just like, yes, we need, frankly, some more of that. We need the pushback and going, we're just not doing this. We're just not doing this. So I liked seeing that. I saw that on social media. And so subscribe to X if you're not on it. Subscribe, help him out, because quite frankly, there's a lot we wouldn't know without the Twitter files. And so I think we need to, it's looking like that is an area of free speech, and we need to help that survive. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. And Kevin will be back on Monday.